Redditors who've met the parents/family of the person you intend to marry and then decided against marrying them after meeting them. What happened? I was staying at the girlfriend's parents' house. First morning, father was out feeding animals. Girlfriend and her mother were getting breakfast ready. I saw my girlfriend put what I thought was an artificial sweetener in her father's coffee. I asked if I could try one. She explained to me it was not a sweetener but a chill pill. They kept her father dosed. I decided right there and then I was not going to be part of this family. So, many years ago, I was engaged to a big heaping bowl of crazy. I was also in the military, in a rather selective unit. We had just gotten back from a deployment, and I'll freely admit that I wasn't a ray of sunshine to be around. When we first got back, our training tempo was pretty mild, so we could adjust being back to life in the States. One thing was really weird, though. I'd see her every weekend, and for the weekend and a few days after, I wouldn't be feeling great. I wasn't sick or anything. My mind would just be foggy. Then she decided to move up to where I could see her throughout the week. The fogginess went away for a while, but I'd still be getting these weird things going on with my body. I stopped doing the deed almost completely. I always felt like I was dragging my body. It was really weird because I was young and in phenomenal shape. One week, we had a 3-day-long field exercise towards the end of the week. She was freaking angry, like more angry than I've ever seen her. She really didn't want me to be gone for that long. Well, tough luck. This is my job. My unit didn't screw around when it came to training. We're talking parachuting in, you sleep in a hole in the ground, lots and lots of patrolling and land navigation, followed by some live fire training in a shooting house. I didn't see her the day prior because I wanted to make sure my gear was set up and get a good night's sleep. I was feeling off, but not too bad the first day. Day 2, I'm a ball of freaking nerves. I didn't know what was wrong, but something wasn't freaking right with my body. On the last day, we were supposed to attack a building with live ammo. We would be clearing rooms and taking down the targets. I was shaking. I couldn't control my hands. I was jittery as heck. I had to pull my team leader aside and show him that I couldn't be trusted to hold a weapon. They drove me from the field to the hospital. I was admitted they started looking for a neurological disorder. After a few days, my symptoms went away and they couldn't find anything, so they let me get back to work. I started seeing my fiancée again and the fog came back. I called my team leader and my first sergeant and I made an appointment to go back to the hospital the next Monday. One morning, the Sunday before I was supposed to go back to the hospital, my fiancée was making me coffee, but got interrupted by her cat doing something. On the counter was a bottle of her dad's sertraline and a small pile of powder. She had been dosing me with antidepressants. I was mad enough to end her right there and then. I had jumped out of an aircraft while on mind-altering substances. If I had tried to tough out the shooting house, I could have hurt someone. Not to mention being on unauthorized medication while holding a security clearance, I thought I was developing a neurological disease because my fiancé was poisoning me. I told my TL and my first sergeant what happened. They cleared it with the rest of the guys. I didn't end up making a criminal complaint. What she did was commit multiple felonies because I just wanted that psycho out of my life as quickly as possible. Her excuse was that she thought I was depressed after coming back from, combat. So she figured she could dose me so I would be happy, not realizing that's not how that crap works. I dodged a freaking Minuteman missile with that lunatic. A guy friend actually convinced me to break up with my boyfriend because of the family trends. My ex's father was always away on business, and his mom was a super cute, bubbly teacher. She would go out with her female teacher friends at night, and the dad would get super jealous and have massive phone fights. My ex and his sibling became super possessive of their mom and hated their dad to an unhealthy level. They thought both their parents were probably having affairs. My ex was 18 and had never done a single chore in his entire life. Their pets crap all over the house, and the mom cleaned everything, even my ex's bedroom. Our mutual guy friend took me to lunch one day and was like, "Seriously? Is this the future you want? He's a cool guy, but the dude is seriously a terrible boyfriend and will be the worst husband. Turns out he had been cheating on me the whole time with two girls that were best friends. They just switch off days they commit the deed with him. I married him anyway, but from the day I met his mom, she hated me. She would rave about how much she adored his brother's girlfriends, but hated me. I tried so hard, but she didn't let up. My husband is her favorite, and she has an unhealthy attachment to him, so I think it's not personal and more along the lines of no girl would ever be good enough for him in her eyes. She's a witch, though. She once faked a severe panic attack to keep her son's attention on her, not me. The doctors at the hospital could see right through it, though, and knew she was faking. She called my husband the night before our wedding and told him if he married me, he would be miserable for the rest of his life. When we went home for Christmas, she tried to hook him up with her coworker, her married son, while I was right there. We rescued a shelter dog, and shortly after he broke a leg due to malnutrition in his neglectful home. She told everyone that I didn't want to pay the vet bill and asked the vet to euthanize him. She laughed at me when she learned I was depressed. She told me I was being dramatic when I started crying after receiving news of my grandpa's passing. She tells everyone that I come from a poor family and married my husband so I wouldn't have to work. I don't work right now because we just moved for his job. In reality, my parents are wealthier than her. She tries to belittle me, but it honestly doesn't bother me at all anymore. I laugh when she does, and it really makes her mad. Intended to marry my ex, but after meeting his mom a few times, I really couldn't do it. She was extremely possessive of her son and never smiled when I'm with them. I was the blame for her son not eating properly. I always cooked healthy food for him, sleeping properly. He worked 16 hours a day. Dressed properly. I ironed his shirts for him when he was too busy to do it. Any blame you can think of. She was also a single mom who has had 2 sons with 2 different ex-husbands and had lots of drama with both. She wanted to retire at 45 but didn't have a stable income. So my ex had to give her money every month so she can retire and not work. All in all, I couldn't see myself dealing with the mom, so I eventually broke it off before it was too late. You know, the more I'm looking at the reasons that the mom is so angry at this wife-to-be, it sounds more like that lemon grab from Adventure Time. It's like, how dare you feed my son vegetables and good meats? This is unacceptable! His mom was incredibly overbearing and controlled what he couldn't do by constant guilt tripping and made up stories. She would drape himself on him for snuggles to the point where it was awkward. I have children of my own, and I don't clasp them to my chest and sigh about how wonderful they are when their friends are over. And she would make sly digs at me all the time. What I was wearing, how I looked, why we were going out, how much money was being spent on me. We always split everything 50-50 at my insistence, by the way, and just generally made me feel like crap. He just took it. When I brought it up, he was just super passive and was like, well, she's my mom. She's just overprotective. He had a sister, actually, who had left home, but was clearly the favorite. Whenever she came home, he was forgotten and shrugged off to the point where it was actually mean. Again, I brought it up to him, and he was all, she's just excited to see her daughter. His dad was a very passive, albeit kind man himself, who just seemed to roll over with whatever his wife wanted, and I guess my boyfriend learned that from him. She was heading for classic MIL from hell territory. There was no talking my boyfriend round. He batted my concerns and feelings on the matter away like they were nothing. I realized that would be our marriage, and I knew I couldn't live that way. It obviously wasn't the only reason I split from him, but it was a key issue. I have no regrets when we split. He very quickly started dating and then married a local girl. They were divorced within 2 years, and from what I could gather from mutual friends, his mother was pivotal in the failure. That's the second one. What's with all these horror stories from moms? Are they all like the stepmother from Cinderella? Yes, good. You'll stay with me for eternity. You'll never find love. Oh no, now I'm just turning to Tim Curry for a second. You'll never find love. We weren't at the marry stage of things yet. Gay marriage wasn't legal back when this happened, but we had been dating for over a year and were considering moving in together. Apparently, my girlfriend had always used a gender-neutral nickname for my name anytime she talked about me to her family, and she never corrected them when they said he. But after a year of us dating, we were finally going to have a family dinner with them. She had already had dinner with my parents, and they loved her. And when I showed up, her parents had a really sour look in their face. Apparently, she hadn't told them that I am a girl until about 2 hours before the dinner was supposed to happen. Her parents weren't exactly against the idea, just severely disappointed that they wouldn't be getting grandkids. Girlfriend was an only child, and that soured the mood for dinner. Honestly, I'm sure they would have come around eventually, but that whole incident told me that my girlfriend wasn't ready to be out of the closet yet. One of the discussions during dinner was, don't tell grandma, and I wasn't going to move in with someone just to be the roommate to most of the people they know. I told her that I'd rather live by myself for now, and she got upset, and we had a fight and ended up breaking up. Dated this girl for 2 years. She was cute, but a little off, as in she would cut herself superficially, then talk about how much better she felt. Whatever, I was 19, and if you look past that, she was great. She was very close to her grandfather. I had met him a few times before. Sweet guy. One day she gets the news that he's dying, so we drive to see him off. Meeting the rest of the family? This is where it gets fun. Her mom didn't strike me as particularly crazy at first, but once I sat down to talk with her, she started getting overly sappy, talking about marriage, but no kids! Kids are the worst thing that can happen to you! Okay. The aunt just wanted to argue with everyone about everything and belittle her grown adult nieces and nephews. Her sister was very obviously a naughty worker and almost always had some illegal substances around the bottom ring of one nostril or the other. She also brought a bouquet that completely filled the tiny hospital room. The lady passing next to Grandpa was not amused. Her brother offered me a slew of illegal substances while I was there. Much appreciated, but calm down, man. And as Grandpa laid there, struggling to hold on to the last threads of life, he got to watch his entire family fall apart, mostly arguing over which of his possessions would go to who. There was also some rumors that Grandpa did an unspeakable act to some of his family members. This made his bedside as well. It was probably the most messed up last days a person has ever experienced. I left early because I couldn't stand it anymore. Too much drama over a dying man. I had been contemplating how to break up with her the following few weeks after all that, when she started hanging out with her manager at work, and after work, getting ride homes with him, and more. And doing the deed. Good riddance. Meeting his family was one of the last straws, and certainly brought up huge red flags. His father was incredibly cruel to him growing up. My boyfriend was an only child that his father never wanted. His dad was obsessive and needy towards his mother, and basically wanted all her attention at all times, and was jealous of the child they had together. I could see some of these obsessive and needy tendencies in my boyfriend, and I knew he didn't want kids, and I did. If we had kids, I was afraid he would react how his father had. Maybe not in a cruel way, but I was still worried. We ended up breaking up for other reasons, but this definitely influenced it. My ex's mom was a round, red-haired, red-faced she-beast who never spoke below a yell. She also had a very unhealthy and incestuous attachment to the son I was dating. I was young and dumb and stayed longer than I should have. She was a huge witch to me and encouraged him to be cruel. but I began to question the relationship when she made him take her bra off for her in front of me. It was a weird display of dominance. Ugh, massive bullet dodge there. So I understand this display of dominance. Yes, it is extremely weird. But I have to admit, the one little detail that is making me giggle is that she never spoke below a yell. What is that like? So are they all sitting at the table and it's like, oh, hey, Mom, do you mind passing the salt? Yes, of course, my beautiful boy. Have some salt. Hey, can you take this off for me? I make her sound like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm a mother now. It's not exactly the reason, but it set us down that path. My longtime girlfriend was a little borderline crazy, little hints of it here and there, but she managed to hide it. I finally went home with her after we got engaged, and her mom would sit in the back at the kitchen table with a little black and white TV playing solitaire, had no friends, complained constantly, isolated herself, and had little flashes of paranoia where the slightest thing was perceived as a major insult that would send her down a day-long sulk session. She also looked kind of like my girlfriend, but did not age well and was pretty heavy. I saw the future. It clicked with me that this was what I was getting into, that my girlfriend harbored all these same traits, both physical and mental, and was working super hard to hide it all. I decided that weekend I need to break it off. Plot twist, as I worked up the courage over the next few weeks, she canceled the wedding because she is a lesbian. Plot twist, I'm gay, she's not. Didn't necessarily intend to marry her, but it was on the table and was where we both wanted to go, I later found out. This girl was completely amazing and my best friend in the world. Unbelievably kind and inquisitive, we fell in love just a couple of months into our friendship and dove headfirst into a relationship once we found out about the other's feelings. It moved very quickly, and I loved every second of it until I met her parents. Her parents were extremely wealthy and extremely weird. Her dad was a high-strung workaholic who seemed to do anything he could to stay away from his family, be it traveling for work or training for marathons. But her mom, oh boy, obsessed with everything vegan and holistic, had a blatant hatred and distrust for anything artificial, especially medication, extremely untrusting, and would flip from hot to cold on a dime. When she found out that the girl I was seeing, the baby of the family, and I were intimate, she began essentially bullying and shaming her for it. She pressured her heavily to give extremely personal and violating details about her personal life, and then would flip her crap when my girlfriend would cave and tell her. She found every possible excuse to shelter her and keep her as her little baby. Mind you, this was in college when I was 22 and she was 21. Eventually, her parents started doing things like dropping in on campus. This was when I was at Penn and her parents were a 15-minute drive away. Calling her to make sure she wasn't sleeping over at my place and guilt-tripping her to stay at home as much as possible to make sure that her 21-year-old daughter wasn't drinking or doing the deed with her boyfriend of about 9 months at the time. I thought it was a me issue and became very depressed, wondering what was wrong with me. But it turned out that it was just the way her mom was with my girlfriend and always had been. Her 3 older sisters were all free to do pretty much whatever, just not her. I couldn't take it anymore. We split. Didn't see another choice. We literally couldn't be together unless she wanted to cut her mom off, which I didn't want her to have to do, and which she didn't want to do either, as it would mean being isolated from her family pretty much, which I would feel completely terrible about. We talked for a while after, and still had strong feelings, but her mom insisted that we stop talking and just let the feelings go. We kept in touch in secret for a while, and her mom continued to keep a death grip on her, telling her if she sealed the deal with a man before marriage again, she would literally be disowned. She had no problem with her other daughters sealing the deal out of wedlock either. I couldn't help but wonder, What the freak is wrong with this woman? Eventually, my ex told me. The reason why her mom was so anti-doctor and such was because she was diagnosed severely bipolar in the 80s and refused to believe it, and decided that all doctors are liars and that medication is the devil, and refused to get any of the treatment she desperately needed. Also clearly has some severe attachment issues. Glad I dodged the bullet of engaging with anything too long-term with this girl. Thoroughly believe her mom would have literally done away with me if I ever proposed.